Hello, I'm Pete Nichols, and I'm the CEO of Parents Beyond Breakup. Today, I'm interviewing Professor Augusto Zimmermann as another installment of our ANZPAC Parental Alienation interview series. Professor, perhaps we might start with you introducing yourself.
Well, thank you very much, Pete. I am a former Associate Dean for Research at Murdoch Law School, and for 5 years I also acted as a Law Reform Commissioner with the Law Reform Commission of Western Australia, where I was able to be more familiarized with this matter. And currently I am the Dean, Foundation Dean, and Professor of Law at Alpha Crucis University College in Sydney.
Awesome. I think you've probably had quite a bit of experience of coming across this phenomena then during your time. Okay, so I'm going to put the 4 questions that we do to all of our guests, Augusto. So the first one is, from your perspective, what is parental alienation?
Well, parental alienation is the act of preventing a parent, a father or a mother, to have access to the child. So it's not that the parent doesn't want to have a meaningful relationship with the child, but it's because the other parent or someone else is preventing him or her from accessing or having a relationship with the biological or non-biological children.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Okay. And what is your position on parental alienation, and what do you base that on?
Well, look, my position it's that this is a violation not just of the parental right, because every parent has the right to develop a meaningful relationship with his or her child, but it is also a very terrible abuse of the child, because the child also suffers as a result, and there are very high rates of suicide, not only amongst the alienated parents, but even of those who are the children being alienated from another parent.
And actually, look, just to comment myself as a representative of Parents Beyond Breakup, that is quite right. We're a suicide prevention charity because it's one of the most common psychosocial factors around suicide in Australia is traumatic and adversarial family breakdown, and we're seeing it growing in children as well, where they're disconnected from the parent that they love.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a real problem that we see it as well. So, in your opinion, though, Augusto, what is it that needs to change and why?
Oh, look, when I did my report together with my fellow commissioners on domestic violence restraining orders, I noticed that one of the strategies used by the alienating parent is to make false accusations of domestic violence. Not everybody who is accused of doing such a terrible thing has actually committed such an act. So, one of the strategies used by the parent who wishes to alienate the other parent from their children is to apply for domestic violence restraining orders on the basis of false claims. Once this occurs, it's very difficult for the person who has been accused to be connected with the child, because the accusation, being most of the time very serious, will not allow this person, until he can prove his innocence, and that might take a long period of time, to actually be reconnected with the biological or non-biological child. So domestic violence restraining orders is one of the tools used by those who want to deliberately alienate the child from the other parent. Another thing that I can say that contributes to parental alienation is the financial reward for such an act of alienation. I have, as an academic, a law professor in the former Law Reform Commission, interacted with those who were alienated from their kids and had to, as a consequence, to pay more in the form of child support payment.
Mm-hmm.
The more a person is alienated from his or her child, the more he or she needs to unwillingly to reward the other parent. It's so I have established a link in my articles between this phenomenon of parental alienation and the current child support scheme. It's quite obvious that the link exists. And every time I try to explain this matter, including to members of parliament, some of them just acknowledge the fact, but they don't have the willingness to do anything about, which makes me very suspicious that there might be possibly be a link that's not just coincidental, but it's based on a certain hidden agenda that advances the interests of certain particular groups at the expense of course, of the rights of others.
So I guess if I'm hearing you correctly, then whether we look at domestic violence policy and practice or child support policy and practice, you would be advocating for reform, but that also is quite difficult because of some of the underlying objectives, perhaps that are not obvious to the public.
Yeah. So when I was preparing this report on this particular subject, I noticed that some politicians and groups with vested interests, they were really keen on removing the need for evidence to be provided. Of course, if you remove the need for evidence, we will not be able to really ascertain that the person who is being accused has actually committed such an act.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we have people being the recipients of these orders when the order itself has been issued without the necessity of proving any sort of guilt whatsoever. So it's really a very terrible thing when a person is at the risk of not only losing his property, but losing his access or his or her access to the kids without the need for evidence to be provided.
Yeah, and that is definitely the most common thing that we come across in the 10,000 or so parents that we support every year in Australia. It's for those who are expressing the feelings of being at risk of suicide, that is the most common thing. It's the loss of everything that they own and everything that they love. But look, let me get to the last question here, which is so that we stay a little bit consistent with what we've asked of everyone else. But I could talk to you about this all day, Augusta. So, what is it that the person listening to this brief interview can do about this, from your perspective, from your own background and expertise? Every one of the experts we have a different perspective on what the person listening to this or viewing this can do. But what is it from your perspective?
Well, look, my perspective is quite pragmatic. There is no way we can fix this by appealing to a system that actually doesn't operate as it should. So this whole idea that we might seek some sort of judicial relief that will fix the problem of the person, it's unrealistic. I don't think the judges and the courts can actually help us so much because the law itself has been poorly construed. So the best way to go, in my opinion, is to review the current legislation and make sure that these incentives for misconduct, which utterly undermine the lives of innocent people, can be corrected. So my recommendation is that we have to somehow think about fixing the problem by amending the relevant laws and make sure that these incentives for parental alienation, which are also financial incentives, are no longer possible. So I recommend that the solution must be political and not legal. The solution is to have decent people in our parliaments who can actually amend the relevant legislation in order to make sure that those who practice parental alienation are no longer doing so unpunished. And to be frank with you, at this point, not only not being punished, but actually being rewarded at the expense, as I say, of innocent lives.
No, absolutely, and you wouldn't be the first person that shared that view with us, Augusto. Look, I think you've adequately covered those 4 items that we do ask of everyone. Thank you so much for your time, Augusto. I greatly appreciate it, and I think that's it for today. Thank you, Augusto.
Thank you very much, Pete.